This story began in Mesopotamia, in a city on the banks of the Tigris River. In northern Mesopotamia, a small settlement was rising along the banks of the Tigris River. Over time, this settlement grew and became the city of Ashur, the heart of the Assyrian people. Ashur was not a war empire at the beginning. It was a city of merchants and caravans. They brought tin and textiles from Mesopotamia. They would buy silver and gold from Anatolia. At first, the Assyrians were not a great empire. They were a people who grew powerful through trade. Assyrian merchants reached Anatolia and established trade colonies there. Through trade, Assyrian cities quickly became wealthy. Over time, powerful kings emerged, and Assyria began to become a centralized power. Assyrian kings began to build a powerful and disciplined army. Discipline was everything. They regularly put the knowledge into practice. Iron weapons gave the Assyrian army a powerful advantage. The Assyrians mastered ironworking and produced a wide variety of weapons for their army. The Assyrian army used many different types of weapons for various kinds of warfare. Each soldier was equipped with different weapons depending on their role on the battlefield. Special weapons for special forces. Weapon diversity and military discipline made the Assyrian army one of the most powerful forces of its time. War chariots were one of the most powerful weapons of the Assyrian army. Using a war chariot required great training and skill. Success in a war chariot required perfect coordination between the driver and the warrior. They were working in difficult terrain. War chariots changed the nature of warfare with speed, mobility, and ranged attacks. The Assyrian army gained a decisive advantage over its enemies. The Assyrian army was disciplined and powerful. The Assyrians mastered siege warfare and were able to conquer even the strongest cities. The Assyrians used massive siege machines to break through city gates. Once the gates were broken, the Assyrian army stormed into the city, and the battle continued in the streets. The Assyrian Empire soon took control of much of Mesopotamia. Assyrian kings built great capitals. One of them was the magnificent city of Nimrud. Assyrian kings ruled from magnificent palaces and governed the empire with iron discipline. Conquered peoples were forced to bring tribute and gifts to the Assyrian kings. The Assyrians ruled conquered cities with strict control to prevent rebellion. Assyrian kings recorded their victories through stone reliefs carved into palace walls. Eventually, Nineveh became the new capital of Assyria and grew into one of the largest cities in the world. Nineveh had become the largest and most magnificent city of the Assyrian Empire. Under King Ashurbanipal, the Assyrian Empire reached the height of its power. Ashurbanipal built a great library in Nineveh, where thousands of clay tablets were preserved. The Assyrians recorded their knowledge on clay tablets using cuneiform writing. The famous Epic of Gilgamesh survived this day thanks to the clay tablets preserved in the library of Nineveh. At its peak, the Assyrian Empire stretched from Egypt to Persia. But ruling such a vast empire was difficult, and many cities began to rebel against Assyrian rule. Eventually, the Babylonians and the Medes formed a powerful alliance against the Assyrian Empire. The Babylonian and Median armies marched together toward Nineveh, the capital of Assyria. In 612 BC, Nineveh was placed under siege, and one of the greatest battles in ancient history began. The siege lasted 4 days, and the mighty walls of Nineveh began to weaken. At last, the mighty walls of Nineveh collapsed, and enemy armies poured into the city. When Nineveh fell, the city was devastated, and the end of the Assyrian Empire was near. With the fall of Nineveh, the Assyrian Empire disappeared into the pages of history. From one of the most powerful empires of the ancient world, only ruins remained. The Assyrians left a deep mark on history with their powerful armies and advanced warfare techniques. Today, many artifacts of the Assyrian Empire are displayed in major museums around the world. Winged bull statues once guarded the entrances of Assyrian palaces. Artifacts recovered from Assyrian cities remain a vital source of knowledge for historians. We will continue exploring the mysteries of world history. Subscribe to the channel for upcoming episodes.